Here are the notes for 4.2 example 4. So this is using decay models. So this is the formula that you have. Notice it's very similar to our growth model, but the only difference is that we have a minus instead of a plus. So know that if you need to use a growth model, which is y equals a times 1 plus r to the t, that maybe in your problem it'll say something is increasing or growing, or it could even say just in the problem to write an exponential growth model. Now, if it's a decay, you might see the words decrease or going down, okay, decreasing, okay? Or another way is saying write an exponential decay model. So those are ways you can tell like which model that you need to use. So for this problem, it says a new snowmobile costs $4,200. The value of the snowmobile decreases by 10% each year. So notice we see the word decrease. So we kind of know we might have to use a decay model. But they do tell us to write an exponential decay model, giving the snowmobile's value y in dollars after t years. So here, we're going to use this model that we have, and basically the variables that they tell us in the problem to use, so y and t. So first of all, our model is going to be y equals. Now, our A value, remember, is basically our initial amount. If we look, initially, the snowmobile costs about $4,200. Now, we're going to do 1 minus. Remember, R represents the rate, so we look at the percentage. But remember, we got to change that rate into a decimal. So it's going to be minus 0.1, or 10. And then we have it to the t power. Now, if you wanted to, you could do 1 minus 0.1, okay? And really, you could also have your equation looking as y equals 4,200. And then times 0.9 to the t power. Okay, let's look at the next. So it says, now estimate the value after 3 years. So 3 years, that represents t. So we're going to plug 3 in for that. So I have y equals 4,200. And I'm going to use the 0.9, and we take it to the third power. So now we're just going to use our calculator to plug that in to get our answer. So I have 4,200, and then 0.9, and to the third power. So our answer is $3,061.80. But remember, we're dealing with money, so we need to use our label. So we're going to have the money sign, and then we'll have our 3,061. And then you can write it as 0.8 or 0.80. Both work. And remember, with money, we round to 2 decimal places. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to graph the model, but we're actually going to use our graphing calculators to answer the third bullet point. So it says, use the graph to estimate when the value of the snowmobile will be $2,500. So the $2,500, that's actually going in the place of the y value. So now for our third bullet point, we have 2,500 equals, and then 4,200 times 0.9 to the t power. Okay, now we are actually going to do something that you guys learned last semester, which is actually doing y1 and y2. So we're going to set 2,500 as our y1, and then this rest of the equation as y2. And then what we're going to do is use the intersect feature on your graphing calculator to find where the intersection is, and that's going to be our final answer. So let's go ahead and do that. So remember, we go to y equals. I'm going to plug in, well, we have 2,500. That was our y1. Then our y2 was the 4,200, and then times 0.9 to the, and then we have to do x because that's what they use on the graphing calculator. Now we want to be smart because we know we got to change the window, because notice that we're going to have a horizontal line at 2,500, and that's going to be on the y value. So when we go to our window, we probably want to change maybe our y values. Now I'm going to keep my x the same because usually our answers are between -10 and 10 on the x. If it doesn't when we graph it, we can always change it later. My y min, I'm going to go ahead and make that 0 because I know I'm not going to have any negative numbers because that wouldn't make sense. And then for my max, so 2,500 is where the line is. I want to see that, so I'm going to raise my y max to 2,600 so I can hopefully see where the intersection is at. So now I'm going to graph it. And notice we see two equations and they intersect. So we're pretty good to go, and we can find the intersection. So remember to do that, we do second trace, and I'm going to go to number 5, intersect. Now we want to move our cursor as close as possible so that we can do the intersections. Once we get it close enough, we can press enter 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And then whatever x value is, that's our answer. Now it doesn't tell us where to round to, but I'm going to round to the 10th place. If it doesn't, remember this is not money, so otherwise if it was money we would round to 2 decimal places, but since it's not and it hasn't told us, I'm just going to round to the tenths or 1 decimal place. So that means for our answer it's going to take about 4.9 years for the value of the snowmobile to become $2,500. So our answer for the third bullet point would be 4.9 years. Okay, so make sure if you have any questions on this, you come in before or after school to get help, or you can always email me. And make sure when you do your homework that you show all of your work, okay? Especially with this part, you want to make sure you can show as much work as possible.